I've heard all the chatter coming out of coming from Berea, sports writers, and everybody saying that Shedeur is taking a step back a little bit. I think it's bullshit myself because I think it's a way of saying the kid is dumb.
A quarterback drifts back. That's something that I think he has improved exponentially on from a year ago. He is not drifting in the pocket.
And that's where you saw Shedeur's elite playmaking ability.
We've been so focused on the quarterback battle that I don't think we've taken a time to take a step back and remember the things people said about Shedeur. He can't do this pre-snap. He can't do that.
What happens when an entire local sports media ecosystem becomes absolutely terrified that a massive $250 million front office mistake is about to be completely exposed by a young, heavily doubted quarterback? We are currently witnessing one of the most desperate, highly coordinated media smear campaigns in the modern history of the National Football League. For weeks, the Cleveland Browns press corps has been desperately searching for any possible excuse to justify keeping Deshaun Watson in the starting role. And now, because Shedeur Sanders is actively dominating the passing drills, the media has resorted to aggressively attacking his intelligence and pre-snap abilities. But the absolute truth was just violently exposed by a Cleveland franchise legend who officially had enough of the lies. You are locked into NFL Zone Talks, the absolute, undisputed authority on the raw, unvarnished truth behind the biggest cover-ups and locker room agendas in professional football. Make sure you smash that subscribe button, hit the like, and let's dive directly into the incredibly shady media bias that has the entire dog pound demanding answers. To truly comprehend the sheer, mind-numbing disrespect of the current media narrative, you have to look directly at the explosive comments made by Browns defensive legend Hanford Dixon. During a recent broadcast, reporters continuously...
Joe Flacco was the first team quarterback, right? And then it ended the way it ended, right? It ended with Shedeur taking the spot. Here we are again. Money, right? Owners... whatever it is, veteran leadership, he's done. He has everything. There should be every single advantage over Shedeur. Deshaun Watson was a world-class athlete at Clemson. They compared him to Michael Jordan, and you're telling me MJ can't get a fifth rounder out of his face? I don't know, man.
Pushed the narrative that Shedeur Sanders was struggling to get the offense to the line of scrimmage, claiming his teammates couldn't hear his cadence and he was struggling to process the play calls. Dixon completely stopped the conversation and dropped an absolute nuclear bomb on the press corps. He flat out stated that this entire pre-snap narrative is nothing more than a thinly veiled, highly disrespectful attempt by the media to paint the young quarterback as dumb. Dixon explicitly called out the undeniable reality. A massive portion of the Cleveland media would much rather see Deshaun Watson start, and they are actively manufacturing minor operational flaws to artificially lower Sanders' stock. The absolute pinnacle of this manufactured media outrage revolves around the completely absurd focus on offensive line procedural penalties. The local reporters are aggressively trying to blame Shedeur Sanders every single time a lineman jumps offsides or commits a false start. But let's apply some actual basic football logic to the situation. The Browns are currently integrating a rookie left tackle, attempting to start a rookie center, and installing a completely massive, entirely new offensive system under Todd Monken that features up to 10 different, highly complex cadences. Offensive line miscommunications and false starts are the absolute standard reality of installing a new system. To aggressively...
Props have been horrendous for us, but, you know, let's start from the top, right? Let's start from the Hanford Dixon's word. And Hanford Dixon says, hey, I think it's BS. I think it's BS that Shedeur simply can't do things pre-snap, can't get him in and out the huddle, can't start the ball, or can't get them to snap the ball, right? Here, I'm going to show you, I believe this was Monday. Shedeur changing the play at the line, making the right read, getting the ball out quickly. I mean, if that's a catch, that's a touchdown. We're having a different conversation, right?
These incredibly common growing pains as a definitive failure of Sanders' leadership or mental processing is pure, unadulterated journalistic malpractice. But the media's desperation becomes entirely laughable the absolute second you actually turn on the unedited practice tape. For months, prominent reporters like Jason Lloyd aggressively pushed the narrative that Sanders couldn't process an NFL defense, claiming he routinely held the ball too long and had no idea what he was looking at. The raw film from Berea completely destroys that myth. Let's look at the highly publicized throw to Isaiah Bond. Sanders catches the snap, immediately diagnoses the coverage, and the football is out of his hands in under 3 seconds. He actively threw the football before the wide receiver had even initiated his break. That is elite, high-level anticipation. He is processing the field with terrifying speed, rendering the media's primary criticism entirely obsolete. And while the media continues to endlessly search for minor flaws, they are completely ignoring the most massive, highly critical improvement in Sanders' actual mechanics. Last season, the primary, entirely valid criticism of Sanders was his tendency to drift backward in the pocket when faced with interior pressure, inevitably leading to massive sacks. If you watch the entirety of this year's training camp, the drifting has been entirely eliminated. Sanders is actively stepping up into the collapsing pocket. He is standing tall, keeping his eyes firmly downfield, and delivering absolute strikes knowing he is about to take a massive hit. He identified his biggest mechanical weakness and completely corrected it, yet the Cleveland media refuses to offer a single ounce of praise for his undeniable growth. This glaring double standard becomes overwhelmingly toxic when you analyze the incredibly low bar the media.
You can go back to Ben Roethlisberger, and he would lead the league in sacks, and the son of a gun would lead the league in scrambles, and jacking that thing down the field about 60 yards. And
He did what?
Hey, yo! So there's going to be a little bit of that you have to live with. You got to shrink that. But what you saw was an elite play by two playmakers. It's fun to watch. And the defense allowed us to let it play on. I mean, that's what they're doing a great job of, is let it play on. Let us evaluate the back end and our ability to make plays when a play breaks down.
I'm sorry. I'm so childish.
has set for the other side of this quarterback battle. The press corps wants you to conveniently forget that Deshaun Watson is a 9-year, highly paid NFL veteran who has spent the last 2 years running practices in shorts. He has every single conceivable advantage: the massive contract, the veteran experience, and the overwhelming support of the front office. Yet, the 9-year veteran is completely unable to physically separate himself from the second-year player. The media aggressively frames the battle as Sanders struggling to overtake Watson, when the actual question should be, why is a $250 million franchise quarterback getting outplayed by a second-year kid? The media is actively protecting Watson's fragile status simply because the organization is terrified of admitting defeat. But the absolute, undeniable death blow to the media's negative narrative came directly from the man actually calling the plays. During a recent press conference, offensive coordinator Todd Monken was asked about a specific scramble drill that resulted in a massive completion down the sideline. Monken didn't offer polite, standard coach speak. He explicitly praised Shedeur's elite playmaking ability. Monken openly acknowledged that when you have a dynamic athlete extending plays outside of the structure, you have to live with the occasional negative play. He actively compared Sanders' explosive, off-schedule capability to the legendary prime of Ben Roethlisberger, noting that the ability to scramble and violently push the ball 60 yards down the field is a terrifying weapon for a defense. You do not compare a young quarterback to a multi-time Super Bowl champion unless you truly believe you have a generational talent on your hands. We are officially standing at an absolute, undeniable precipice regarding the future of this incredibly talented football team. The local media establishment is completely out of ammunition, and their carefully constructed, highly negative narratives are violently disintegrating on the practice fields in Berea. The front office might desperately try to start Deshaun Watson in Week 1 simply to justify his massive, fully guaranteed contract. But the actual tape, the franchise legends, and the offensive coordinator all know the absolute truth. Shedeur Sanders possesses the elite processing, the explosive arm talent, and the undeniable mental toughness required to completely take over this franchise. The only remaining question is how long the Browns are willing to delay the inevitable. I want to hear your absolute raw, unfiltered thoughts down in the comments below. Who do you genuinely believe will start the most games for the Cleveland Browns this season? Drop your absolute best, most aggressive takes below. Make sure you hit that subscribe button to stay permanently locked into the absolute truth, and I will see you all in the very next deep dive.